In 2011, a YouTube video titled "How to Leak on a Piece of Paper" was uploaded to a channel created just 6 days prior by the name of Alantutorial. The video by itself makes very little sense at all, as a seemingly hesitant man shows his viewers how to leak water from a bottle onto a piece of paper, passing off this strange activity as some kind of tutorial. But unbeknownst to most, this single upload would turn into a full-scale series with countless underlying questions that left its viewers investigating the dark truth that lay beneath. This is the story of Alantutorial.
Thank you for coming to my YouTube page. So today I'm going to show you how to leak on a piece of paper. Don't forget to favorite it and like and subscribe.
Our story begins on June 23rd with the upload of Alan's first video. While nothing about how to leak on a piece of paper is directly alarming to us, it does give us some insight into our main character and his personality, as Alan demonstrates his often unclear and incoherent speech patterns, the same of which can be heard in his next, now deleted video titled "How to Watch YouTube Video Online." Alan's tongue-tied mannerisms and inadequacy when demonstrating simple tasks are present throughout his channel and indicate to us that he may have some sort of mental disability. A YouTube tutorial about how to watch YouTube videos is inherently pointless, but Alan seems determined to get the information across regardless, and the next 3 videos he released, how to make mail into square, how to upload YouTube unwrap video and fill a cup with water, and how to make a windmill, all follow the same theme as Alan collects a random assortment of objects and combines them in ways that are confusing and meaningless, often calling several objects by the wrong name or making up new words entirely. This involves calling a hole punch a square pop and referring to what appears to be either hair gel or hand sanitizer as water. His 6th video, however, is the first to have a clear and distinct goal in mind: manga head draw tutorial. Despite this being the first tutorial on Alan's channel that is straightforward and understandable, his execution isn't great. It seems that no matter what Alan is attempting to accomplish, he refrains from using his left hand, instead choosing to always hold the camera, leaving only his right hand free to complete his required tasks. It's unclear why Alan chooses to do this, but it makes complex and detailed tasks such as drawing much more difficult to execute, resulting in a below average illustration that completely lacks the manga style that he was going for. And the next video uploaded to Alan's channel begins in a very unsettling way.
Hey guys, thanks for coming to my YouTube page. On my page, I'm going to show you a new series of tutorials about how to hack or mod a hard drive.
This video, Hack 2TB Hard Drive Mod Brother Trick Glow in the Dark, opens with Alan explaining the concept of a prank with a very shaky voice, almost as if he had been crying prior to this recording, to which we receive some information about Alan's personal life, revealing to us that he has a brother who lives in the same building as him. Though we never see him on screen, Alan explains that he will attempt to trick his brother by hot gluing coins to one of his hard drives. This tells us more about the relationship between these two characters than we may think, as Alan seems to want to get back at his brother for doing something that made him upset, which is likely why he was crying before he began recording. This is still highly theorized, however, as we never hear the two characters interacting. 4 days later, a video was uploaded to the channel titled Desk Demo, in which Alan shows off a collection of objects on what appears to be a drawing desk with the description reading, "How to do a tutorial about making little circles on a desk. Mic's broken. How do I fix it?" What's interesting about this question is that upon viewing the video, it becomes apparent that the microphone Alan claims to be broken is indeed working. He just chooses not to talk. We're unsure why he chose to do this, though it may become apparent later in the series. Alan continued to upload more tutorials over the following weeks. These videos involved crushing Dr. Pepper cans with planks of wood and putting on clown makeup despite never showing his face to the audience. For the most part, the following videos seemed to be nothing out of the ordinary. That was until the next upload: how to make double-barrel World War II Italian fighter plane origami paper art.
Next thing you need is this skeleton, and we're making a fighter plane. Fighter planes in World War II were the best kind of planes because the Germans didn't know how to deal with them because they had double-barreled engines. Everyone who used them... Everyone who used them knew that they were the best kind of plane. So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta make a fold. So once you have your first fold... Yeah? Once you have your first fold, you gotta line it up with the 3 spinners. Make a ruler. Who? Yeah? Doing tutorial. I'll be done in a minute. Stop. No, stop. Anyways, once you have it done, you just hold on. I'm doing tutorial. I'm almost done with tutorial. Let me just finish. Stop it.
1 minute and 28 seconds into the video, Alan is interrupted by a knocking at his door. He attempts to ignore the sound and continue with his tutorial, but it comes back, with each knock getting repeatedly louder as the video goes on. No matter how many times Alan responds to the knocking, no voice is ever heard from behind the door, but whoever is outside is getting more aggressive by the second. As far as we're aware, the only other person who lives with Alan is his brother, which leads us to wonder why he would be reacting this way in response to hearing Alan record tutorial videos. And it makes us question their relationship entirely. From what we've seen so far, Alan's brother seems to be neglectful towards his sibling, rarely showing him any attention, and oftentimes upsetting him to the point where Alan backfires by tampering with his brother's possessions. In this video, it seems that Alan's brother is knocking on his door repeatedly as a sign for him to quiet down and stop recording, showing us a lack of real communication had between the two characters. And looking closely at the door to Alan's room, we can see a thick piece of string wrapped around the doorknob and tied to the inside of the door, meaning that Alan has gone out of his way to lock it for the time being, further prohibiting needed communication between himself and his brother. With passing time, this could evolve into something much worse. In the next video, How to Escape a Dark Room and Find Light, Alan is seemingly trapped inside a small pitch black room as he demonstrates how to find the exit. It's unclear if Alan was placed into this room unwillingly by someone else or if he purposefully got himself stuck so he could make a tutorial. Either way, something seems to be slightly off with Alan from this point onwards. Upon exiting the dark room and emerging back into his regular space, we see him successfully climb out of the window and onto the roof above his house, where he takes a look at the ground below him. For no more than 3 seconds, a woman can be seen walking towards the front door wearing a white t-shirt and holding what appears to be a suitcase. This is the first time we've had a look at the world outside Alan's house, and this mysterious woman is the only person to be captured on video throughout the entire series. Upon spotting her, Alan says, "Oh no," in a nervous voice and retreats back into the house, ending the video. As of now, we're unsure who this woman is, if she also lives in the house, and if she has anything to do with Alan or his brother, though the suitcase she's carrying could suggest that she's some sort of visitor. With each passing day, Alan's behavior has become progressively harder to understand. His speech patterns have become more sporadic as he struggles to find new video ideas, which has led him to create tutorials with even less informational value than before. In New Tutorial, Alan spends half of the video's runtime browsing a collection of objects before settling on the idea for a tutorial. The video's title further suggesting he had no prior plan for this upload before he began recording. Alan also consistently asks the viewers to share his videos at the end of each recording, often doing so in gradually strange and out-of-touch ways. This involves saying take a screenshot and share it on Facebook, favorite me on Twitter, and don't forget to call my home phone. While Alan is smart enough to upload his own videos to YouTube, it seems that he doesn't quite fully understand the internet, mixing up the vocabulary of several different social media sites in ways that aren't entirely logical. On the 6th of June, Alan uploaded How to Get Coffee Drips from a French Press, though the title of the video turns out to be completely irrelevant to what we see. Starting the recording, Alan is seen distancing himself from what appears to be a drill covered in socks. The drill is turned on and spinning uncontrollably on the floor, causing Alan to lie down and hide under a bed. Upon blocking himself in, we see a cardboard box with writing on the front, though the only word we can make out is bad. Alan appears to be afraid of the drill, treating the tool like it's alive as he says, "Be quiet so it doesn't see you." This isn't the only time Alan is heard talking to inanimate objects, and we'll see more of this later down the line. The next video uploaded to the channel is How to Pick Up a Blue Chair Off the Ground, which amassed 3.3 million views on YouTube after going semi-viral on Tumblr, with Alan's unnecessary need to specify that the chair was blue creating a long-running joke that this tutorial will not work with chairs of different colours. In the beginning, we hear another instance of Alan's broken vocabulary when he says, "Thanks for coming to my Bluetooth page," in a trembling voice. It quickly becomes apparent early in the video that Alan is crying as he continually struggles to lift the blue chair.
If you can't get the chair to pick up, you can try again by just getting your hand on it and giving a pull.
After numerous attempts to pick up the chair, Alan gives up entirely, leaving it on the floor in the middle of his room. Something about this video feels illogical and is oddly unsettling compared to the rest of his uploads. Alan is completely unable to finish the task that he set for himself, resulting in a wave of tears. Although his other tutorials are nonsensical and useless, he is almost always happy with the outcome he achieves, but in this case, he is distraught and disappointed not being able to lift the chair, leaving us to wonder why he chose to upload the video, being unhappy with it himself. And as we'll come to learn, there may be more going on than we think. Alan continued to upload videos to his channel, and in 2 of the next 10 uploads, How to Home Yoga and How to Break a Beanbag, the blue chair is still on the floor of his room, barely visible in the background, over 2 months after he attempted to pick it up. There seems to be something preventing him from picking it up after all this time, as the task at hand should be simple. It also seems that the topics Alan made his videos about began to change, becoming more sinister with how to smoke and how to take a bunch of pills, whilst Alan appears to become more disoriented. He continues to refer to various undisclosed liquids as water despite their concerning appearance, and doesn't seem to be against the idea of drinking it. In Magic Rope Tutorial, we see a black cat walk into frame during the final seconds of the video. We're uncertain if this pet belongs to Alan or his brother, but it's the first and final time we ever see it. And perhaps the most important thing to happen during this period occurred on September 2nd, when Alan created a Twitter page. How to tweet on Twitter. First thing you gotta do is borrow a desktop and post a tweet. Thanks guys, #Alantutorial. don't forget to retweet. For the most part, Alan would use his Twitter page to post more tutorials in text form, but these aren't what's interesting about this account. In the first month of posting, he typed some slightly distressing messages such as "Help, I am scared, and most worrying, if I don't get more followers, I'll die. I'll just die," along with an image of Alan holding a hammer on top of the blue chair. Alan would occasionally interrupt his fairly typical posting habits with concerning messages before returning to normal, acting like nothing ever happened as he continues to fill his profile. And these would get worse as he began to upload again, starting with how to tweet on Twitter, in which he attempts to build a computer, following up the video with a series of tweets that ended with Alan blowing up the motherboard, advising his viewers not to follow the tutorial. Afterwards came how to do a pull-up, where we see Alan in an attic for the first time, followed by air conditioner installation tutorial.
At the base of an air conditioner, you got a old cord or rope, it's not a big deal. All you do is you find the power switch cord.
Unlike his other tutorials, Alan seems to be more disoriented in this one, as he walks around with blood on his hands, appearing lightheaded as he struggles to stand up. The description of the video also makes very little sense, further demonstrating his currently weak state. He falls over several times throughout the video, and looking in the background, the blue chair persists, 3 months since falling to the floor. Things have been getting worse ever since that one fateful video from June of 2012. Alan's mental and physical state is declining, as now displayed on his Twitter profile. "I don't know what to do," showing no signs of self-improvement combined with a lack of general happiness. That summer, Alan would finally break. "Dear whoever said I'm being forced to do tutorials against my will. No I'm not. Hashtag stop it, hashtag like, hashtag subscribe, hashtag help me."
Perfect. Almost got it. Okay, so what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna get a whole mess of dust and slats. Smash it up with a packing trowel. Okay, clean off the dust. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Over the next 2 months, Alan had a small breakdown on Twitter that ended with him destroying his ceiling. "If I have to do one more tutorial, I'll scream. Hey guys, I have no excuse. Thanks guys. I get thousands of tutorial requests daily. Thanks guys, I don't mind, it's fine. Favorite and follow, please retweet my lessons. Okay, locked in my room. Sharpen a stick of wood with a knife to make a new part of a broken drum. Easy tutorial. Thanks guys, I'm lost." Having completely ruined his room as his mental state continues to plummet, Alan had reached a new low, though he would continue to pretend he is okay, ending every video positively even though something is very clearly wrong, and his actions would prove to have consequences.
Hey YouTube, thanks for coming back to my YouTube page. Today I'll do a new tutorial what to do if you get locked out of your room. So, somebody got locked out of my room. Somebody packed up all my stuff.
Alan's brother finally had enough, kicking him out and leaving him alone at night in the darkness. This is the longest video on Alan's channel, clocking in at 7 minutes and 7 seconds as he sits on the roof of his house, waiting for someone to come and help him. We hear him whispering to himself, spouting off tutorial ideas and crying, asking the viewers for help. Alan begins to realize that he's all alone and will have to fend for himself.
Get food. Gotta do tutorial. How to eat food. Find more. Gotta get more. How to kill.
Alan's character is beginning to shift completely, and combined with his new environment, it was time for him to start a new chapter. The videos from this point on started becoming a lot shorter as Alan was now homeless. All his possessions were taken away from him, leaving only a smartphone to keep him busy, allowing him to record his first video in the wild, lost survival skills tutorial, Find Water. When people get lost, they forget to find water. Here's a survival trick I had to learn to get a drink, and the drink tasted good, so it was worth it. If you get lost, it's no big deal. You can just drink water and look for the direction you started walking in when it was dark and you first got lost. For the first time, Alan correctly identifies water and collects it using a milk jug that he dangles from a shoelace. Although appearing to be doing well for his first day in the wild, it wouldn't be long before his downward spiral would continue. I'm lost. This unsettling tweet from the 7th of January would be followed by a video 21 days later, alanvideo.mp4 tutorial, in which Alan would be seen carrying around a blue tarp as he grabs a selection of interesting items off the ground, including snow, a broken bloody brick, and eggshells. He appears to be rummaging around through trash bins in an alleyway with visible blood on his hands and a scared tremor in his voice. When it comes, he shows up. She is also part of it, but that part is fine and not worried about. If you get shoes, you can just keep them, I think. The video ends with Alan crawling inside a trash bin with the tarp in hand, telling the viewers to like and comment on the video. I'm warm, thanks guys. If they show up again, just hide. You don't need to show everyone. It's fine to sit up and just hide away. These tweets and the previous video description both mention Alan seeing people during his time on the streets. He, she, and they possibly refers to some sort of group and reflects Alan's new feeling of being followed. It's become apparent throughout the series that Alan doesn't do very well with people, previously having isolated himself from everyone around him, including his own family. With that now being impossible, it's likely he's in a state of paranoia. And in the following videos, Alan resorts to moving away from the streets and into the woods. In How to Change, Alan can be seen destroying an undisclosed wooden object by lighting it on fire. Unlike every other video on the channel, this upload in particular is missing the camera audio and at the 1 minute mark is entirely replaced by smooth jazz. Despite what you may think, the video wasn't always like this, as the comments were quick to point out that the missing audio used to exist and has since been mistakenly overwritten due to a glitch on the website. Fortunately, a few comments from around the time were able to provide us with the full transcript of the original dialogue. Hey YouTube, today I'm going to do a new tutorial. How to change. The first thing I do is wait for a full moon, and if you try to change you gotta use liquid. Liquid always looks black in the moonlight, which is perfect too. Perfect. Now see, you've got to pick this tool. If you try to change, you've got to use your axe and torch and record it. Good. Well, you got it. As you will see, never quit spraying it. See, I'm starting to change already. And you keep at it with your tools. Make sure they're in good shape. Perfect. Then we see the water and we leak it. Search for your leak. Keep leaking and hit with your tool. If you want to change yourself, just become a subscriber and don't forget to comment. Okay, it's perfect. The dialogue itself is nothing out of the ordinary for Alan. However, he never specifies what object he is burning and why, though he does believe that doing so will allow him to change. Whether that's for better or for worse, we'll never know. Alan then halted all posting on his YouTube page between February and November of 2013, though he did remain active on Twitter during this time. On February 25th, Alan posted a blurry picture of a hand along with the caption, "Found you." Then, on June 3rd, something quite interesting would happen.
These are the frightening witches into which the beautiful little girls of the valley have been transformed.
First thing you would know about it would be the flash. That means duck and cover fast wherever you are. There's no time to look around or wait.
Network Awesome was an online internet magazine founded in 2011 by American musician Jason Forrest. The site featured a variety of articles from a bunch of different journalists covering anything and everything, from TV shows to live music and even marketing. The network would last a mere 7 years before becoming inactive and would eventually shut down for good in the autumn of 2020. In 2013, however, an interview would be conducted for Network Awesome by Jody Elphick, the subject of that interview being Alantutorial. Having been archived several times, the full interview is still available online. The text would provide us with our first look behind the scenes of Alantutorial, beginning with a brief disclaimer. Please note that this interview took place several months ago, before Alantutorial's circumstances changed. The interview then goes on to talk about Alan's personal feelings regarding his channel and the people that view it. It certainly has had an overwhelming response. How does it feel to have all these people following your instructions? Do you ever get uncomfortable with having that level of power and influence? Hello. I want everyone to do tutorials. People like and subscribe and do tutorials, and I think that's good. If everyone in the world did my tutorials, I think it would be a good and more peaceful world. If people don't do the things I say and don't listen to me, then I get so sad. I can't do everything okay. Thank you. Do you get sad a lot? Hello. Yes. Thank you. The interview comes to an end shortly after this, with every conversation topic being forced back into talking about tutorials. Alan also starts every message in this interview with a greeting and ends every message with a thank you, as if the conversation is starting over every time he speaks. Unfortunately, aside from discussing his emotions, this interview isn't as useful as it could be, failing to dig deeper into Alan's personal life, revealing very little about the world around him and where he comes from. The most important piece of information we gather being that Alan gets sad very often, as seen in his previous videos. But this wasn't the most interesting thing to happen in the story around this time, as something much more important was happening over on Alan's Vine account. If you're wondering why I haven't mentioned Alan's Vine account until now, it's because there were only 2 videos ever posted to it, one of which I was completely unable to uncover. The first one, however, posted on February 12, 2013, shows Alan slamming his hand down onto a familiar wooden desk and greeting his audience. As this was posted after Alan had been kicked out of his house, you would assume that he simply took an old clip from his smartphone and uploaded it through the app. But if you're familiar with the Vine app and how it functioned in its early days, you might know that this likely wasn't the case. A year after its launch on the App Store, having been bought out by Twitter, the Vine app had a very crucial update, finally allowing its users to import videos from their camera roll to be shared on the platform. This update, however, rolled out on August 20th, 2014, a year and 6 months after Alan had posted this video. Because this function was completely absent on Vine until late 2014, Alan would have to have recorded and uploaded this short clip through the app itself, meaning he'd have to be at the location in question on the specified date, leaving us with 2 options. Either Alan was at home on February 12, 2013, 3 months after he was kicked out, or Alan was in someone else's home on that date, possibly having been given a temporary place to stay by a nice person he met on the street. The second option seems much less likely, and after doing some cross-referencing, I was able to confirm that the wooden desk seen in this Vine is the same desk that made numerous appearances in Alan's older YouTube videos. Perhaps Alan's brother allowed him to return home temporarily until he could recuperate, which would explain why there was no activity on his YouTube page for a few months, though that seems unlikely given how his brother kicked him out in the first place. Or perhaps there was a third party involved, such as a parental guardian or partner. In the video desk demo, we can hear multiple voices conversing outside Alan's room. If Alan's brother had a girlfriend, then perhaps she convinced him to bring Alan back home for a few days. This would also explain who the nameless woman was we saw earlier in the series. And in case you have any doubts that this Vine takes place after Alan became homeless, Alan himself posted a link to the video on his Twitter page on the exact same date, February 12th. In regard to all these theories, however, there is one thing we know for certain. Alan was at home on that very day. And though there is nothing on his Twitter page indicating that he stayed there for very long, it's entirely possible he was there all the way up until his next YouTube upload in November, over 9 months after the Vine was posted, where Alan would find himself back outside. This very short return video would be followed by how to do Spanish hair braid just 4 days later, in which we would see Alan running around a forest barefoot and covered in dirt. Interestingly, 20 seconds into this video, looking very closely, we can see a blue chair lying down flat on the floor. He runs directly over it, but fails to even mention the item. Since the chair was previously seen during the worst of Alan's moments, perhaps this is just a sign that things are going to get even worse. Following this, Alan would pull out his hair and attempt to braid it for the tutorial, giving up completely before making any sort of progress and ending the video shortly after. 10 days later, Alan would post DIY weatherize hole tutorial, in which he removed the remainder of his clothes and stuffed them inside of a tree, leaving him stranded outside in the cold with nothing to keep him warm for 2 more nights until his next upload on the 23rd of November, where things would take a dark turn.
Hey YouTube, okay, it's tutorial time, and I'm gonna find something, I'm gonna do a tutorial, of course. First thing you gotta do in this tutorial is you gotta find, something to do tutorial, you gotta find,
In Disc Tutorial, Alan is seen in a completely new setting covered in blood. He appears to be in the back of a moving van as he struggles to maintain his balance, with the brand name Isuzu, an automobile company, barely visible in the background. And written on the walls of the van in black ink are the following sentences: "There are no problems, only solutions. If everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. Don't put off till tomorrow what can be done today. The beating shall continue until morale improves. Do the right thing. You're not beaten until you admit it." From this video alone, we can discern that Alan has been taken or kidnapped and is now being transported to an unmarked location, with the description reading, "Hi guys, I'm moving." There were also some additional comments left on the video by Alan himself. "Hey guys, I'm not supposed to do this. Thanks guys. Never mind, sorry guys. Oops. Bye guys." 19 days later, Alan would update us with simple tape tutorial in which he can be seen sitting on the floor of a white room containing a jug full of urine and a red table. On top of the red table is a measuring tape, a stapler, a wooden cube, a fidget toy, and a bottle of turpentine, which Alan describes as water despite being a toxic chemical that is poisonous if swallowed. The selection of objects seen on Alan's desk begin to change with each new upload. As time progresses, we see Alan with batteries, plastic balls, string, and paint, which for the most part go unused within the videos. And although these objects appear to be completely random, one of these items remains consistent, as every day Alan is given an up-to-date printout of the New York Times. It seems that whoever is keeping him in here is providing him with news articles to keep him up to date with the outside world, and every other object in the room is a personal request. And on the 17th of December 2013, Alan had enough.
So these are tutorial. These are things you need to do tutorial. And if you don't know what a tutorial is basically a stupid little thing that little kids like, and I don't like tutorials. Tutorials are stupid, and I hate them.
In Senate Ends budget debate, Alan is heard mocking tutorials and tutorial channels, calling them stupid and immature, saying that from now on, Alantutorial will be a news channel. This came with a lot of nonsensical tweets from around the time displaying his abrupt breakdown, followed by "Bad news, Obama has new limits," in which it's clear that Alan used the paint given to him on the previous day to turn the table blue. And on top of this, he even painted a depiction of the blue chair on one of the walls. Since the color blue has previously been used to represent Alan's sadness and struggles, it's interesting to see its return. Although he seemed happy to move on from tutorials and begin his rebrand, perhaps it wasn't the wisest choice. Over the following days, Alan would continue to make news-related videos, though the New York Times printouts would suddenly vanish from his desk, starving him of new ideas, until all of a sudden, Alan began receiving money.
Today I'm gonna do new tutorial, news story. Guess what? News. Financial report just got in. Turns out, guess who got $1?
As he was currently unable to make new videos, Alan found himself accidentally falling back into doing tutorials, realizing that a single dollar bill would be slid under the door every time he taught his viewers how to achieve something, almost like he was being paid for his work. A discovery that motivated him to create as many tutorials as possible, beginning with how to make a terrarium, where Alan would express his distaste for news-related subjects, announcing that he will revert back to his original format. Make a terrarium. It's like an air bubble with a plant in it. No news, guys, sorry. News is just the largest market trying to control the proletariat with lies and fear, I think. Help me get 1,000 subscribers in 2 days, please.
And if I don't get about 1,000 subscribers in the next 2 days, I'm probably gonna take my own life. Bye, guys.
At the end of the video, Alan expresses that if he doesn't reach a particular goal on his channel, that he will end everything, showing us that his mental state has officially hit rock bottom, though this grim conclusion is thankfully averted, with Alan continuing to post 2 weeks later. I'm okay. Thanks, guys. In My Own Hand tutorial, Alan collects a $5 bill and arranges each note to form a humanoid figure which he names after himself. He then begins talking to the dollar bill man, treating it like a real person. This would conclude with Alan collecting his final dollar bills in a now removed video titled Science Ball Burning Tutorial Blast, forming a head for the creature and eventually taping it all in place. Check out my new tutorial if you don't mind getting blasted. Yup. JK. Good night forever, JK, but it's whatever. Alan then uploaded how to watch YouTube clips in HD 720p, where he has gained access to a laptop and is viewing Google images of wood textures, alluding to the fact that he misses his original desk back at home. He then pulls up a video titled Horse Gag by the channel Me Mime, then changes the video quality from 360 to 720p, and upon doing so, the video cuts to something much more sinister, an Alantutorial video, though the footage appears to have been taken from a GoPro recording with the camera mounted on Alan's head. He sits and watches the video in silence whilst looking around his room in fear. The audio attached to the video is inaudible, having been heavily distorted, though the footage appears to come from the terrarium tutorial from a few weeks before. The video eventually ends, preceded by a regular outro. It's fun to use computers. Laptops are good and I know all the best tricks. I get to do tutorials. Alan's channel then became the home of disturbing videos displaying his long-winded, incoherent rambles between himself and the dollar bill man, including a 17-minute live stream in which Alan paces around the room, occasionally picking up items and throwing them, all whilst talking to himself. The audio for this live stream is once again very low quality, and despite some attempts to restore the audio, the full dialogue has never been fully uncovered, though given his current state, it's more than likely he was ranting about something completely absurd and pointless. Then came Arm Tutorial, in which Alan begins trashing his room, followed by complete inactivity across all his accounts for the next 6 months. And picking things back up again in October of 2014, Alan's room developed into a disgusting mess, to which he finally took it upon himself to put an end to things.
Alantutorial.
Tutorial page. Tutorial.
Upon the release of his final video, tuTorial, Alan's social media pages fell inactive and have remained that way for the past decade, with the last upload marking 1 year since he was taken and held captive, leaving Alan's story completely up to interpretation. We don't know what happened to Alan after he escaped the White Room, where he went, and if he ever became stable. We also don't know who captured Alan and if they're still out there, but by far the most discussed question regarding Alantutorial isn't about his whereabouts or current situation. Instead, they are about this: a strange spinning object seen in 2 of his last videos that vaguely resembles a decapitated leg or limb. Due to the lack of information about this series, we have never figured out what this item is and why Alan has it, though most agree it holds a very close resemblance to a human body part. We also never receive an explanation for Alan's strange attachment to the blue chair and the dollar bill man, though some have theorized that inanimate objects are used throughout the series as an allegory for Alan's parents, namely the sock drill and the blue chair. Though we don't hear much about them, we are able to discern the high probability that Alan's parents are absent from his life. In How to Fill a Tiny Bin with Dirt, Alan shows off his father's military watch, meaning he was or is still currently serving in the armed forces, the other likelihood being that he died whilst on duty. Despite these possibilities, Alan isn't heard getting emotional when talking about his dad. Perhaps he left or died when Alan was very young, though we see him at his most vulnerable during How to Pick Up a Blue Chair Off the Ground, which contains the video tags broken, heart, alone, worthless, forget it, who cares, death, dying, failure, terrible person, why is this happening to me, and unfair. This shows us that the blue chair seen in many of Alan's videos possibly reminds him of the death of a loved one, and since he's clearly okay talking about his father, this likely relates more to his mother. Maybe Alan has been unable to cope with his mother's death, causing him to spiral and forcing his brother to remove him from the house, and there are some potential clues throughout the series suggesting that this tragic event happened very recently, with most of the evidence pointing towards this theory. And having observed Alan's videos and the relationship he has with his family, I was able to create a conclusive timeline of the story, tying this narrative together in the most reasonable manner. Throughout his childhood, Alan lived at home with his parents and his older brother. He had a relatively normal young life, though felt like he was treated differently to others. Despite their genetic relation, Alan's brother never felt a true bond between them. He would avoid talking to Alan at all costs and would often ostracize him due to his strange behavior. Alan was born with an intellectual disability, meaning he developed slower than most and often struggled to communicate. His parents tried their best to help the boys get along, but this became increasingly difficult once Alan's father left to join the military. In later years, Alan's brother moved into his own home, leaving Alan behind, who due to his condition still lived with his parents. He didn't see his father often, though he gave Alan his military watch as a reminder that he was always there. Flash forward to the spring of 2011, and it was decided amongst Alan's family that his mother was now too old to take care of him. And with nowhere else to go, he had no choice but to move in with his brother, where he began living in the spare room upstairs. He rarely left this space and would often find himself listening to his brother's conversations outside. Most exchanges were vague and uninteresting to Alan, though his curiosity helped him succumb to a harsh reality. His mother was sick, and there wasn't much hope. Struggling to deal with this news, Alan had to find new ways to distract himself, beginning a YouTube channel under the username Alantutorial and diverting his attention towards making videos. And just under a year later, everyone's worst fear would come true. After the death of his mother, Alan suffered a downward spiral that further damaged his mental health. Family members from all across the country were visiting him and his brother to ensure that they were okay. But Alan wasn't. He had just lost the person he was closest to, and he now had no one there to protect him, which led to several mental breakdowns and ultimately being kicked out by his brother. Neglected by his own family, Alan was now homeless, though his whereabouts were a bit of a mystery. In November of 2013, he was kidnapped and taken to the White Room, where he was paid to make tutorials, though he never spent any of his money. Instead, he used it to create the Dollar Bill Man, which he spoke to and escaped with, proving that he was never interested in wealth. He just wanted company. Alan didn't live the perfect life with the greatest upbringing, and the struggles he faced were nothing he wasn't accustomed to, though he ended his career by leaving that room with the one thing he always wanted: a friend.